You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 39. Today I kind of felt like with the New Year hype going on still and people trying to make these New Year's revolutions, I keep saying revolutions, it's resolutions and all of the things, I thought we're at this peak where I think this Monday coming will be Blue Monday. So if you're listening to it in order, or if you're not, doesn't matter when you pick it up. But I really felt like today would be really important to talk about self-empowerment because it's something that I embed into all of the episodes. It's obviously what the podcast is essentially about in its whole. But I just felt like if we could utilize that, really hone in on it to what it means, and then the extra components that come with being self-empowered really and how to live your life in that way. Because I think, as I said, all of this New Year hype has got us rejigging our plans on like how we live our lives really and carry out our daily exercises and all of the things. I think it's really important. So on the topic of self-empowerment, I just kind of wanted to really go into my interpretation of it, and it could look different to everyone else. At the time in my life where trauma was leading, self-empowerment looked to me like being the boss, being in charge, being in control, having all the answers, being a know-it-all, doing things my way when I wanted to. And that was my version of that then. However, now I've done that healing journey and I've kind of taken off that armor and that need to prove myself. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still some debris there. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect and it's all healed and gone forever, because that's part of the journey. And I always talk about this is that, healing is circular, not linear. So we're always going to be met with some shadows and some wounds that we've dealt with in the past. But, doing the main bulk of healing and really clearing away so much hard stuff, there's only little tiny debris left, as I said. So a little bit of that's still there. But for me now, what I know self-empowerment to be is that feeling of feeling grounded in who I am and knowing who I am and not needing to prove myself because of it. Now that does take time to get there. And when I say time, I mean practice and daily choices. And this is where the word consistency for me plays a massive part, because there is no way that I would have ever achieved self-empowerment if I hadn't been consistent in my daily practices. Now, the toxic version of that does look like being unwavering in that, like being so methodical and meticulous in those, I have to do this, and this, but equally knowing what the other side of that looks like too. So the reason why I pride myself in, meditating twice a day is because when I don't feel grounded, I'm then reacting and not, coming from a space of knowing or groundedness, as I said. And this word grounded comes in quite a lot because for me, I felt like ego was really far forward, pushing forward at 100 miles an hour all the time. And then for me, like surrender feels like felt, sorry, so scary to let go and all of these things. It was something I didn't want to be. It felt like a weakness to me at the time. And I feel like the grounded space in the middle is being able to tip backwards and forwards when it feels right to do so. And you'll only know if it's right to do so if you are grounded in that space. Think of a pendulum, it's like that, the swing in motion. It almost like you have to swing forward and back to move forward in life in general, or move however in life. But yeah, that feeling of really knowing yourself is just so powerful. And you only get to that space through, looking in really and asking yourself these questions. And this is something that's come up on the podcast and, my blogs and all of the things all of the time. Like, how do you find self-empowerment? And the biggest part of that is the one thing that people don't want to look at, which is, what are you most afraid of? Because I promise you, when you can befriend your fear and your shadow side and work with it, that is a game changer, because then your fear becomes your ammunition to push you forward. So, for example, for me, my fear's always been failure. I've always been afraid to fail. And I think because of, lots of my relatives passed away when I was young, I felt like I needed to live a full life for them, right? I needed to prove myself because they didn't have that to get to live their full capacity. And equally, because no one really believed in me in my life, I felt like I still had to keep pushing forward and, yeah, proving myself to other people, that I could be a professional dancer, that I could make a business, that I could do all these things. So, yeah, toxic energy on that point. But equally, because I knew well, I say because I knew, when I started to look inwards to find that out, I was like, okay, so what happens if I did fail? Nothing. Really and truly, what happens if I failed in that journey? Well, one, I could be stuck in a really unhappy life doing something that I hate or didn't enjoy. That's one thing. Two, I could get a job doing anything. So really and truly, maybe I'd find another passion. Um, or three, what if I didn't? You know? And it's when we pull it apart into those small, simple steps and just look at it like that, it's like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal, right? And again, another one for me was um to be seen as a successful person or whatever, like, I guess in other words, what people thought about me. So we think about that again and pull that apart. Um, what I know for sure is, especially from doing the work and everything, is that what people think about me is their problem, not mine. And that is such a reclamation of your power, because this is the thing, right? We hold the power always, but we give it away. So you give it away to those people that think some things of you. You give it to your fear and let the fear lead you. And you give it to society, like, what is their expectation of you? And then you feel like, even, your employer, maybe you give them your power because, what you want to do seems so far-fetched that actually you're not willing to um step forward into that. That's all of what feeling disempowered looks like. Yeah. So then when we call back our power, it's knowing, is in that knowing of being like, okay, this is what I'm afraid of, so what am I going to do differently? And this is how we become self-empowered, because we look at those flaws, or I say flaws, the fears, and we can, yeah, use that as a tool to push us forward. Okay, I don't want to fail. I'm scared of failing. So what can I create, do, or learn to help benefit me? For example, in the lockdown, I couldn't be a professional dancer anymore because pandemic, obviously. And also, I realized that that was a dream that I made when I was 18 years old, right? I'm now 28 at the time, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what can I do? And I was like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to say that I gave up, because, I didn't, and I still love dance. How can I make this work for me? And actually, the first thing I thought about was, let's go back into education, because then I'm growing. Because this is another thing, I think, you know, and I'm a pure example of this as well. We sometimes want to skip to the end part. I wanted to go straight from being a professional dancer, pandemic hitting, to jumping straight into something else and being successful and great at it. That's not how it works. And if that did happen, you would have cheated so many like routes of your journey that actually you would have failed anyway because you did it the shortcut way, which never works, by the way. Not saying it can't be easy, because it absolutely can be easy, but when it's in alignment. And you have to learn these things along the way. I think, you know, it does get to be easy if you enjoy it and if you learn from what you're learning and going through. So yeah, for me, to prevent myself from feeling like I failed, I had to, for me, go into education. That felt like the right thing to do. And then from there, I started to expand and think about the connections that I had in the dance industry already, the schools that I'd been to, and then I started to build up from that space. Now, that does take time, and I'm not at Z yet. I'll tell you that. I'm not at the end of my goal here. I'm still probably maybe D, E, F, maybe somewhere around that mark. But that is all part of my journey and my process. And I'm grateful for it. I can't even explain to you how wonderful it is to see how this idea started, you know, even further back, even looking at my childhood to who I was all of those years ago, and what I've learned every step of the way to get me to be this person now that can share all of my gifts and experience to help other people become their most empowered selves. That for me is really what we could be utilizing, and that is where your self-empowerment lies. Again, you know, I'm speaking about this. If you listen to my podcast regularly, you'll know I speak about this case study that we build up for ourselves. And whatever you think is what you become, attract, and have. So if you've always thought of yourself as unmotivated, then the universe will always show you being unmotivated. Whereas if you change that thought process and say, it gets to be easy for me now, the universe will show you constantly ways for it to be easy for you now. But in everything we talk about in self-empowerment and empowerment as a whole, you have to choose it. You have to choose it. That's your power. You have the choice. So if you choose to not do that workout that day because you don't feel like it, one, what are the repercussions of that? Are you going to feel lethargic? Are you not going to sleep well that night because you didn't exercise? Are you going to be overthinking what happened in the day because actually the exercise is a mental release for you? And or is your body just really exhausted and you just don't have it in you today? You know, weigh up these options and then think, okay, I'm not going to go today, but I'll go tomorrow, you know, and make sure you go tomorrow. It's, you know, I said about this in the last one, it's having the discipline to you know, do the thing that you said you were going to do. That's all building your self-empowerment, your self-trust, your self-respect, but having the discernment to know if it feels right to do it in that moment. For me personally, there are nights where I'm exhausted and I just want to go to bed, but I meditate before I go to sleep, sitting up, got a whole little routine. And I know that when I do that, it clears my mind and I have a great sleep. The times that I haven't done it, which have been probably one-off occasions, maybe on holiday, I've had a few drinks and fallen asleep without realizing, my dreams are wild, you know, even still to this day. So I feel like for me, that's the sign to show me that this is why it's important and this is why I do it. But it is all trial and error. And when you set a new task or a new thing that you want to do, there are going to be some setbacks because that's part of your hero's journey, you know, and I spoke about that the last time, you know, you are the hero of your own life. You have the power to be and achieve everything you want to be and more. You just have to keep choosing it. So my question to you would be, what does the most empowered version of you feel like? Are they confident? Are they healthy and active? Do they have a certain body type? Do they have certain skin type? Is their hair a certain length? You know, really think about those things. And if you were that person, like, would you be shopping somewhere different? You know, like, would you be buying your clothes from just organic spaces because that's what your skin would prefer? You know, like, think about all of those things there. They're like your North Star. They're your Z, right? That's where you need to get to. So Work backwards. What would be the step before that then? So before you got to that point, maybe you were going to the gym every day, or 3 or 4 times a week. Maybe you were growing your fruit and veg. Maybe you were doing a course in what you're interested in to start a business up and or you start to work and collaborate with other people that you met in the past, or someone that's doing the thing. I tell you this, right, more than anything, if you want it and it's a dream of yours, you can have it. You wouldn't have that dream if it wasn't meant for you. And if I talk about quantum physics and that quantum realm of reality, there's another you living that life somewhere else. I promise you, whether you believe that or not, and you think I'm so woo-woo, I am. But that is true. So you can have and be that person because you already are somewhere. Otherwise, that wouldn't come into your thought process. And again, this is my thing about us having all of this power. It's always inside of you. And this is my like real bid for humanity. It's like, when can we wake up and really see how much we can achieve and be and have? And you know what? Sometimes it's not even the physical of having, the money in your hand, but having the experience of the richness of life, or the joy of friends and family that love you. These are all the moments of like what life is for. And I think sometimes we get caught up on, again, that external thing of, if I have 1 million followers, I've made it, or if I've hit like a certain price range that I wanted to price, it's not the right word, isn't it, income that I wanted to receive. Like if I was in that's a tangible outcome, right? But what are the intangibles? Because the intangibles are what makes the tangible worth it. How many stories do you hear of millionaires that are unhappy? And you probably don't, to be fair, because we only see the like kind of 3D reality. But so much of my research and understanding is about how it means nothing. All of that external stuff means nothing if the internal hasn't met it there. And this is where your self-empowerment comes in. This is why your journey isn't just straightforward, because you are creating a life of richness. And that is where it all ties in. So, for me, if you're struggling with motivation and or consistency, why do you want that thing? What is the North Star, the end goal? And this is why we have vision boards, because when you can see in front of you what it is you want to achieve or receive, that is why it's there. I don't know if anyone's watched the Rocky Balboa films, but I loved them growing up. Obviously, toxic masculine, that was like, massive thing for me. Rocky always had a picture of his opponent on his mirror, because he would train every single day or whenever he was training and look at his opponent in the mirror and think that he could beat him and know that he could beat him. And, he always did. So it's that motivation piece for you. I mean, and we look about it in manifestation terms as well. There's so many stories about that, even down to people planning their exact kitchen that they want on this board and then walking into their dream home that has the kitchen. And they're like, can't explain it. It's just something that happens in like a quantum leap really into that reality. But also your thoughts become things. So if you know that that is what you want, maybe the kitchen is not a great example because you can't work towards that, but equally it could be the fact that you're saving. So maybe the fact that you are in a position where you are in your 9 to 5, you're not 100% fond of it, but the reason that you're staying there is because you want to buy your house, and then from that point in the back of your house you can open a massage room, and then you can do your massages from home, and that's your business, right? Maybe that's it. And then from that space it's like, okay, maybe all your pictures are about what your house looks like, what the massage room looks like, and building on that. And then that way you're looking at your dream and knowing it's possible. So then all of the days that you have to take the extra shifts at work, or help someone else out in exchange for, I don't know, extra money, I don't know, maybe you're going to help someone move, they give you 50 quid. That's an example. All of those little bits you're doing make it worth it. And then you can get to that point where you're in your house looking around being like, I did it. And that's the richness of life and having. And then from there you move on and you find something else. But ultimately, it comes down to you choosing that choice for yourself. And this is why, for me, this part of self-empowerment is so important, because it all comes down to how you feel about you, for one, is where you'll achieve or receive what it is you want from your life. And then you going about that and taking that aligned action and being consistent in it. Now that can change what it is you want to achieve, in terms of, the miniature goals, or even the big goals might change. And then that way how you get there changes as well. And this is the discernment that I'm talking about. Is, the discipline is obviously doing the task you say you're going to do, but the discernment is obviously, is that serving me? I wanted that big house, the massage room, but actually I'm realizing now that I want to go away. I want to travel the world and maybe do massaging freelance. That's all possible for you, and you can do all of that stuff. But equally, maybe that part of the journey was important to get you to where you needed to be, to receive those things and learn and understand and grow. So this is why it's all so important that we do these little steps and we get clear on what it is for us, because no one can tell you what it is that you should be doing. It's up to you to know and understand that for you. And again, it's all about coming inwards and asking and knowing, what are your fears? What are the things that you're most excited about? What does the best possible outcome look like for you? And that's what you can have. I went somewhere the other day and a lady was saying to me, I just want to wake up and I be in that reality. And she kept going on and on and on about it. And I wasn't in a space where, so this is my discernment now, is that I don't give out advice unwillingly, because obviously it's my job. I'm going to wait till, respect the other person and also be respected in return for my advice. And I just got to a point where she just kept going on about it. And I just stopped her and just said to her, your reality is your choice. I was like, no one is coming to save you. So if you want this for yourself, you have to choose it. And that's where you take your power back. Because the moment you wait for someone or something to come and save you, you haven't got your power in your hand. When you make a choice, that is your power. And it isn't about control. It isn't about ego. That is you in your soul being grounded in who you are, because you know what's right for you. You're choosing what's right for you. And again, strengthening of boundaries and accountability, consistency, all of these things tie in together and they make you this whole version of you. And every task, everything is calling your power back to who you are now. So I'm going to leave it there, keep it really, really short and sweet. But I just wanted to say that if you are in the Kent area and you're listening to this in time, I am doing an event at Inn on the Lake Hotel, and it is about, it's a Women Empowerment Wellness Day. And essentially what I'm doing is unlocking your inner power for you. And the tools that you will gain from the day are basically all of my tools that I teach to my one-to-one clients, to my group container, and it will just last a lifetime. All of these things that I talk about, you'll get to actually practically work through it for yourself. You'll gain a workbook, you'll get to connect with other women, and you'll also have a lovely afternoon tea as well. So I'm all about that connection to other women and just having a beautiful time and experience. So all the details will be in the show notes as well. And yeah, obviously, if anything I've said has struck a chord with you, please do, obviously, as always, reach out. But I've got some really great guests coming on the next 2 weeks. I'm so, so, so excited to share them with you. So yes, I am wishing you lots of love and light. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon.